Okay, we're live again. Thank you for that opportunity to have a little break. At this time, we have new items of business. The Director of Planning and Building would like to put forward a new item of business, which is an urgent matter that requires an amendment to the Township Site Alteration Bylaw. So we would first need to put forward a motion for a new item of business. The new item of business amendment to site alteration to address fill being brought in under a building permit. Councillor, do we have a... Councillor Rayner has the motion. Go ahead, Councillor. Okay, there we go. Out loud, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Riley that a new item of business be introduced, being an amendment to the Township Site Alteration Bylaw, being Bylaw 2016-41, specifically address Section 12IC, which does not require a permit for site alteration done under a building permit.
Okay, councillors, you've heard the resolution. Seconded or moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Riley. I'm going to go to the I'm going to head off questions that you may have and go right to the director for. Oh, sorry. My apologies, of course. So this is just to introduce a new item of business. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. My apologies. You guys are very patient then. And we have a new, a resolution seconded by, okay, so just get that all done up. To throw it in the farthest reaches of a garbage can. Okay, Councillor Riley, go ahead. You have that resolution.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Trombetta, the Site Alteration Bylaw 2016-41 as amended, be amended by replacing Section 12IC with the following new Section 12.IC. I don't know how I'm supposed to explain it, but it sounds like speaking a different language. Anyway, sorry. A site alteration that is directly related to a building or demolition permit that has been issued for the purpose of constructing a driveway, parking lot, or assembly area reasonably accessory to building or structure for which a building permit has been issued, provided that the amount of fill does not exceed 503 square. I don't have to,
meters cubed.
Meters cubed.
We'll get to that shortly. Moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Director of Planning will give a kind of an opening salvo here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief, but I do appreciate the opportunity to put this on the floor. I do this because I think there's some urgency and criticalness to the concern that we're raising with you. The Site Alteration Bylaw, as currently written, allows for the importation of fill to a property at the time of a building permit. That alone seems innocent on its own, but we are finding that property owners are starting to, if I may use the word, abuse that provision by bringing in excessive amounts of fill. There have been 2 properties on Silver Street where about 100 loads each have been brought in. In fact, in the one case, I believe it's more than 100 loads just tied to a building permit around a house. Likewise, on Concession 5 Road, there have been a couple of residential properties where excessive amounts of fill have been brought in, more than historically you would expect as part of a building permit. And then most recently, and why our Director of Public Works is also in attendance, today we had to shut down 16 Road due to all of the truck traffic destroying 16 Road, and it was to bring in fill attached to a building permit for a new barn. I'm not going to name the property because that would cause some concerns around future bylaw enforcement matters potentially. But in public session, I can tell you that the applicant brought in over 500 loads and it was supposedly tied to a building permit. It may be legit, but I think we need to have some more fulsome explanation and discussion before we get to that kind of number. And right now it's just an open blanket. If you've got a building permit, bring it in. So the suggestion that we've put in place is really just to add the last few words onto the clause that was read by Councillor Riley, and that is the provision that says, provided the amount does not exceed 500 cubic meters. So what we're basically saying is if it's tied to a building permit, the first 50 loads, that's okay. Once you go beyond 50, then the site alteration bylaw would apply and you need permissions to go beyond 50. That's the proposal. Given the importance of what happened today, we feel it's critical that we try and get this in place sooner than later so that the next time I can assist our public works people who were on the road struggling today, whereas I was saying I don't have authority to help shut down the project, and they needed the help today. So that's the proposal through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Rayner?
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Trouble, thank you so much for doing this. I'm glad that we're stepping down on this. The two examples that you're talking about on Silver Street, Regional 65, are not far from me. And day after day after day, I drive down Caser Center Road, and there are more triaxles on the road than there are passenger vehicles. And it is phenomenal the amount. What's really disturbing to me is most of these people have no agricultural background. They are bringing in absolute crap and throwing it on topsoil. Anybody that has any respect for land would first peel the topsoil off. Then if you've got stuff that isn't quite as good, put it underneath and put the topsoil back over. They're just dumping it on top of the topsoil. They have absolutely no understanding, respect, appreciation when it comes to soil. What they're creating is a wasteland out there because nothing's going to grow. And if they do get something to grow on it, they cut it with a lawnmower. They're going to tear it apart with all the blocks and pieces of chunks of concrete and everything other crap. And the reason it's going there is because it's probably free, because whoever's getting rid of it says, boy, there's a fool somewhere, thank goodness I got rid of it. And unfortunately, West Lincoln is going to be labeled with that because there's a lot of it. Caser Center Road is almost a highway the last couple of months with the amount of triaxle trucks carrying garbage, dumping it on top of topsoil, not far from me. It is unacceptable, and thank you so much, Mr. Trouble, for bringing this forward.
Yeah. And this is, just for clarification for the staff, this is with respect to a building permit.
Correct.
So this kind of allows that
Both are new
too.
buildings.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then Councillor Trombetta?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Trouble. So this is in regard, I understand, this is in regards to a building. So if you're gonna build a house in the country, 50 loads, anything else, you gotta come in and get a permit, is that correct?
That's the proposal, yes.
And then, so what are the fees for that, Mr. Trouble? And just because I did this in the past and there wasn't one, so I'm just trying to get my, not that I'm building again, I'm just trying to get some, because, and the reason why I'm stating that is because, especially down in my ward where I built, the level of the land is very low. It's almost, you're almost in a pond is pretty much what I'm saying is in that level. And 50 loads, I'm not saying, if you're doing your due diligence, you're building a home, 50 loads ain't gonna get you anywhere.
No.
And that's what I'm trying to say, like, so if someone's trying to build a house, it's gonna add to your cost of building a home, but because our land is so low, you're gonna be put in a ditch, and I experienced this, like, you ultimately, when you build a home, you want your house level above the road, so your water flows to the ditch and goes away, right, so.
Yeah, the bylaw, though, is not about trying to make money. It's just about trying to ensure that it's done properly. So, as I said, the first 50 loads would be free. Once you go between 500 cubic meters, so 50 loads, and 1,000 cubic meters, 100 loads, it's a $500 permit. And above 1,000 loads,
Okay,
or sorry, above 100 loads, it's $1,000.
So above 1,000 loads is 100, is.
No, above 100 loads, 1,000 cubic meters
1,000 cubic meters.
is $1,000.
So the average house, and this off the top of your head through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Trouble, what's an average house take to backfill around it? Like an acre lot, an acre lot, what's the, I understand a farm lot could be a little bit different, but even more too, as I drive down, a lot of people have built new homes, and you're trying to get your house and drainage away, you don't want your sump pumps going off.
I think, Mr. Mayor, the answer to that has changed over time dramatically. It never used to be as much as it is today with the way they're building. They seem to be almost building at grade and then, bringing in 4 feet to bury your basement,
So
which is
just
the
for
way it never used to
curiosity,
be.
I went a foot below the actual grade, because only a foot was where I could start my actual excavation, and then your walls, 8-foot high walls, right? Because the land, the elevation of the land is so low in Ward 1, right?
Yeah, I think what we're we're not trying to be restrictive or preventative. What we're trying to do, again, and this goes back to the whole discussion we had about site alteration in the first place, was to be able to speak into and direct. So it's not like, if there was a farmer building a barn, a chicken barn, and he wants to desire to do the same, so he can do some engineering, engineered soil, put his gravel and his footings and start that application, he may have to bring in 500 loads. So a chicken barn is quite large. What we're having a problem with is we have no recourse, no control. How when it's tied to the site alteration, at least we can control traffic routes, weight restrictions, half load, things all come into play, and they get to speak into that building permit.
So pretty much the
process.
building permit's an open game then, pretty much with.
You're right.
And that's the
That's
issue.
what's happening.
Okay,
Yeah,
now
exactly.
I understand.
So
Okay.
this is tying site alteration to a building permit so that we can engage those processes.
Correct, okay.
It also gives us, if I may, Mr. Mayor, it also gives us the chance to collect a bit of security so that bylaw and public works can work together and be sure that we're communicating on the same page and not playing catch up to something that we don't even know about.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jonker?
Yeah, just through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. So the fill, it does not include aggregate, like gravel for the drive or nothing. This is just fill that's being brought in.
This is,
Right, there's
this
a difference
is,
between those, so this
Yes.
is just fill, not
That's
gravel for
correct.
the driveway or,
in fact, probably the kind of stuff that most people are getting so many dollars a load to accept on their property,
Yeah.
if the truth be told.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for that. Councillor Rayner, you have resolution for bylaws.
Well, before the bylaws, I still wanted to, I wanted to bring one new item.
You
Okay,
did that the last time.
okay.
You did that last month. Not another
One.
thing for the.
Okay, so go
I'm
ahead.
trying to write it out here, sorry, and kind of, it just things started going out quickly. So, hopefully I can get this figured out. So, actually, hold on a second.
Councillor Rayner?
Council Riley's gonna read the bylaw, because I am in conflict with 219-64, remember?
Okay,
Gave him.
what we could do is, pull that one item, vote on all of it, and then do that one separately. That's probably what will end up happening.
But he's gonna read it. That's all right. Pass it over to him. Just keep it clean.
Okay.
All right, so I apologize for this, my fault completely, and I should have been a little bit more prepared. So. So. Sorry, just.
This won't happen again, right, Councilor? We were doing so good, I was gonna get you all out of here by.
All right, sorry. Okay, I think we're good, and it'll make more sense once we kind of get into it.
Okay, Councilor Riley.
So that I'm gonna bring, hold on, it just disappeared on me. No, it's okay. We're gonna make it a little bit more official. We got rid of the other two. and then we'll do the one.
All right.
Thank you, sir. You can.
All right, go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Yeah, I'll let you know as I let everyone else know. Okay, moved by myself, second by Councillor Trombetta, that a new item of business be introduced, being that staff invites Staff Sergeant Rom to a future council and/or standing committee meeting to address community concerns.
Okay, so this is just, at this point, so not to make my mistake again, this is just to introduce the item. Moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. You've heard the resolution. Any comments or questions? Councillor Rayner?
Yes, a few councils ago, I introduced that when Mayor Trombetta was sitting there, and I asked for a quarterly report from the Grimsby Staff Sergeant with regards to concerns that any of the councillors would have in their wards in order to improve the area. We went from 1 cruiser to 2 cruisers in West Lincoln at one time. But for some reason, prior to last council, it got dropped. And I don't know why, because I thought it was very informative of what he had to say, and also helped him with what reports we could also add to help him to make it better. So I'm glad to see this is coming back. I just don't know why it was dropped before.
Well, this is just to introduce it, so any other comments about introducing it this time? Any comment? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. And there should be a resolution there.
Yes, we're just getting that fresh off the press here for you.
Told you, I'm glad
I think that sounds great.
We're doing pretty good. Should have coffee. I have a second coffee. Okay, everyone, Councillor Rayner, Riley has a new resolution. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rayner, that staff be hereby directed to invite District 8 Staff Sergeant Rom to a future council or standing committee meeting to address community concerns.
Any comments or questions? Moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Rayner. I just wanted to say one thing. It's Rom is his first name, so we'll get the second name. Yeah, so that will
The
be
last name in time.
included, just so you know. It's Diagidio, but
Diageo, I think it was.
Diagidio.
Yeah.
Anyways, Councillor Riley, lead out on this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you as well. So I wanted to bring this up because we were talking a lot about, I think, shortly after the inauguration and going in early in the year, and I want to make sure we haven't lost momentum with it. But there's still issues that are surrounding our community, and I think even more recently, from our motion in April there, our push for the Safe Needle investigation of what we can do for a community to kind of help protect them even more with the needles that we're finding around. And now with the presentation last month, I believe it was, from a resident regarding their push for it, there's a need for further consultations that kind of go beyond just what we're able to do ourselves. So I would definitely, so if I could take a step back, during our Public Works Fun Fair Day, I'll call it, the celebration of our Public Works that we had, I actually was able to speak to Mr. Rom there. And so I'd actually talked to him. Actually, one of the questions I brought up was about a better understanding of what the cruisers were, and he kind of gave me his opinion, or so much perspective of what that looks like. And I won't get into that yet because that's a bit of a longer conversation. But the one thing that I was important to me that I did get across to him is I asked him if we were to invite him to a public open house or even just to a committee meeting or a council meeting, would he be willing to answer and interact with both council and the public? And his answer was yes. And so the point of this right now is to get the kind of groundwork going so that we can reach out to him, to bring him out here so we can have a bigger conversation with him, and also allow members of the public to really come up here and engage with him as well, to even, for all of us to get a better understanding of what the future looks like moving forward with West Lincoln and policing West Lincoln. And so that's the reason why I brought this now, and I guess in a roundabout way, I apologize for not having a little bit more organized.
no,
There's more things I'd like to talk about it, but I don't think we need to necessarily draw it all out now for this thing. I do have one question while I'm on this topic, and so through you, Mr. Mayor, to our CEO. I know back in April, we had it was the will of council to kind of have staff look at what we could do around our community regarding the safe boxes, or sharp boxes, sorry. Have you guys been able to find time to look into that? Is there any pushback? We just know we're getting a lot of momentum in the community of being more, I guess, reactive and getting more, having stuff done sooner than later. So I'm just kind of wondering what I could tell constituents moving forward with where we are in that, I guess, grand scheme of things.
Through you.
Can we finish talking about the wrong thing first before we move to something different?
Well, I'm not moving to something different. I'm talking about safety, and that's part of the whole thing.
We're talking about having staff, we're directing staff to invite Ron. That has nothing to do with the safety boxes.
No, yeah, so.
But it will come up
Councillor-
as a question. It's going to be directly. We're not policing just.
Councillor Riley, I need you to,
Yeah.
I agree with Councillor Cody. You need
Yeah.
to just kind of deal with one thing at a time. Your
So-
head is kind of racing ahead and you're spilling out of your mouth. And
It is, but the thing is, but I'm more curious.
Okay.
That was a question I had. Maybe.
I'm gonna allow the CAO just to ask about the sharps boxes, just to give us an update on that.
Thank you for the question, and we have done some work on it. It's not as easy a task as you might imagine because there are not a lot of resources out there. However, I think I have the basis for a poster that we can be sharing to teach people in a young education format about what to do should you see a needle. And I was going to actually share that tonight, but I didn't. I will gather that, and it sort of comes from another jurisdiction, but it's the same language. I ended up speaking with region health staff because they are our best conduit, and then there's also they pointed us in the direction of Joanne, the Living Positive Niagara. They have a really great video as well, which we can also add to our website. So there are, when we were talking about last time, we were talking a lot more about education, and there's what we still need with respect to implementing a sharps box in a spot is to know where the activity is happening, and so if we get complaints about that, then we're mapping it, but we don't have a lot of that data yet. Right now, what we have is anecdotal. So still, we are working on it. We have a couple of products that we can start to share with respect to education and training on it. I'm going to be raising it with the CAO group in Niagara, so that if I can get the CAO group to ask the region to get their communication staff to do it, then they might take some more initiative. But it's certainly not within their budget or their scope this year. So work is being undertaken, and what I might just do is get the poster made and get it out there.
So if I'm understanding correctly, sorry, just real quickly, so the idea of maybe even getting a box just put at the Westland Community Center is like not something that we could just do. You want to have the data showing where stuff is actually happening. So we're trying to isolate the area versus it's really spread out. So I don't know if there is an actual area that we can.
Well, and that might
nail
be
that
the
too.
exact issue. You don't want, it's fine to put a sharps box in place, but then someone has to actually unload it, and
Okay.
there's work associated with that. And they don't recommend that you just do it anywhere, and.
Because then you draw.
Then you draw it to them.
Yeah.
The big-
Anyway, so on the with
I don't
respect
know
to
if it's drawing.
Okay.
It's not like
That's
but-
controversial.
Discussion we need to do later.
okay, so on
Thank you,
the
Mr.
ROM
Mayor.
issue,
Thank you, Mr.
on the
Mayor,
staff
for allowing
sergeant
that.
ROM, we've indulged you,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cody.
Yeah, my question is probably for you, Mr. Mayor, or Madam CAO. Is there someone else we should be talking? Like, ROM is Niagara Regional Police, so we essentially works for the Niagara region. So is there someone from the region we should be asking to come speak to us about our concerns with the Niagara Regional Police and how we would like to proceed? Like, I have no issue asking Rom to come here, but I just wonder if we maybe wouldn't get further along. There has to be a regional Niagara Region Police liaison or someone who, do they have someone who?
I think, so let me ask a question, and then it could be answered, and we'll know better how to, I don't think our issue is with the police.
No, that's no.
No, right?
But-
So if you're asking about bringing in someone else, it's more like a comment about the police service itself, whereas I think the intent of the motion, correct me if I'm wrong, just for the sake of clarification, is to allow the public to voice community concerns
right.
to the police directly, so it's that engagement
Gotcha, okay.
process.
So is there someone from the region who deals, like, does the region have there's gotta be an individual, a coordinator with the Niagara Regional Police, and where's the chain of communication between the region and the police? Like,
I'm gonna let
should
the
we have a
CAO,
regional
I have an
representative
answer
as
for
well?
that, I'm gonna let the CAO, because she waved at me.
And then we'll compare notes. So, this position, the staff sergeant position, is your liaison for the local area.
Okay.
And I think he is a good person to be connecting with. And then if there are issues, certainly if another jurisdiction had an issue about me, I'd like to be a chance to be able to talk about it first before you take it to another level. And then I think, I don't know enough about their structure as well, so that'll give me a little bit of something to go and investigate to see what other methods there might be for
Sure,
engaging.
yeah, I wasn't trying to
No. yeah.
go around Rom, I was just wondering if we had someone at the region who could also convey our issues to.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Ganan?
Thank you. My question is more about how this will work, what the procedure will be. So if we are inviting him, that's fine. If we expect council to have questions, that's also fine. But I think that Councillor Riley was also hoping for public input. So would that have to be a public meeting format? And
That's how I envision. I don't think
is
we
that
can do it in the
okay?
context
So
of, yeah.
okay, so that's.
It would,
I see our CAO sort of nodding her head, so maybe she wants to weigh in on that.
My pause there is, I don't know how we did it here before, and I have seen it where they have spoken at different council tables, and if it is an item on the agenda, people can ask, a question, or they can circulate their questions to their representatives. So there's many different ways. So I think, as the clerk is saying, whatever your direction is, you should be as specific so we can arrange it appropriately.
Councilor Cody?
I'm just curious if we could do something like, I feel like this might be dropping a goldfish in a shark tank. So is there a way, can we request that anyone who wishes to address the staff sergeant submit their question beforehand, and those will be the only questions we allow? So that
He does carry a gun in the table.
I just mean, I just feel like the
Well
public
armed.
would get heated, and I don't want it to make, so if we could
Yeah.
have their questions in advance, and then we could vet them.
I'm gonna go to the CAO.
Can I make a suggestion that perhaps over the next month between now and the August meeting, I talk to them about how they do it in other communities and the most effective way to do it, and then come back and tell council about that, and then you can refine your motion to,
That'd be fine with me, and I was thinking, like, even when I was talking to him about his schedule, it probably something that realistically probably wouldn't happen till the fall time
Yeah.
anyways at this point. So I think
Okay.
whether you took August or September, I would be fine with, as long as we have something in motion.
Okay, so at this point, was that a recommendation to just kind of refer to staff?
I guess we can refer that to staff
Oh,
now.
okay, to refer to
Yeah.
staff, okay.
So do we need to make the amendment or the change to the, or does it
That
not
they
matter
hear
at this point?
That staff be hereby directed to invite staff sergeants to a future council or standing committee meeting to address community concerns. That's what we have before us.
Should we amend it to also include public?
That will allow, I think there's enough flexibility in it, and as long as we understand. Yeah, okay,
When it comes-
okay,
All
okay,
right, sounds
great. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Are we done with new items of business? Anyone else? Okay, here third, anyways. Bylaws. Councillor Riley has that.
I do. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Trombetta, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2019-59, 2019-60, 2019-61, 2019-62, 2019-63, 2019-64, 2019-65, 2019-66, and 2019-67, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary now with, notwithstanding.
We probably should take 64 because of Councilor,
Okay, so Councillor
Reener's,
number 64 is going to be struck.
Okay.
And we will come up with a new bylaw on that one. And then my next question is, and then we have the one that we just, right? And so is that in here?
I
No,
think
it's-
it's in,
Oh, okay, so we're gonna do this bulk, and then we're gonna do two separate ones separately. Just so everybody's on the same page. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? 2019-64 was the one that was removed. I've scratched it out. All those in favor? And that's carried.
which one do we read first? Oh, 64. Oh, I'm still on. All right, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Here. All right, so moved by myself, second by Councilor Trombetta, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw 2019-64, and that the same shall be considered to have been read first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. This is the one that Councillor Rayner has declared conflict on. That's why we're voting on it separately. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. It should be noted that Councillor Rayner did not participate. And we have one more. Go ahead, Councillor Riley.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Trombetta, that leave be granted to introduce bylaw number 2019-68, and that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Any comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, all those.
Hold on. There's hands.
This is this one here.
Yes.
I kind of just wanted that question of gravel aggregate fill. I think that's going to confuse people. I'm wondering if we could put it in there that it does not include, fill does not include aggregate. You know what I mean? Like that people.
Then they could use aggregate as fill.
Well, that's what I'm kind of wondering. You know what I mean? Like. It would.
It's defined elsewhere.
Isn't it defined elsewhere? Okay, so let's find out.
Okay, good. All right, so any other comments or questions? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay. At this time, we're going into closed session. Councillor Riley, you have that resolution.
I do. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Cody, that the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001. A, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, legal bylaw enforcement matters, site alteration issues, applicable closed sessions, exemptions, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Advice, or I guess -2, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Riley, seconded by Councillor Cody. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Moved. We move into close. Thank you, gallery, and those watching in TV land for